Happy Friday, everybody, and welcome into the Gramlich and McLean podcast presented by Ingles, the official supermarket of Gramlich and McLean. It is a football Friday, Mac. We've got some great games this weekend, highlighted by, of course, Clemson, Florida State. We talked about it on Wednesday. We're going to talk about it more today. And, of course, Florida State fans, if you're watching, Mac's wearing his Clemson gear.
Is this the last time I'll wear it? Who knows? We'll
Perhaps.
see. Maybe Monday. Maybe I'll be in a little garnet and gold. Who knows? We'll find out. The interesting thing about that game, KG, I thought the line would move a little bit. Hasn't. It stayed solid at 2.5. Fascinating stuff. Very interesting.
It is. And yeah, I mean, that for Clemson to be a home underdog, we talked about that on Wednesday.
Yeah.
It hasn't happened in 7 years. So, and I understand that, Mac. Florida State's number 4 team in the country. And I think
surprise is not more, to be honest.
Yeah, I think they deserve to be favored in this game. I think so many people are just wondering which Clemson are we going to get? And you could argue which Florida State. But we will get to that game, Mac. First and foremost, this show is brought to you by Ingles. This weekend, the Buffalo Chicken Dip is happening.
Let's go.
I am going to go to Ingles either today, probably tomorrow morning.
Okay.
And gather all the ingredients. And I was telling Mac as well, I have a dear friend who's going to be at the tailgate who is lactose challenged, lactose intolerant. It happens. It's a thing. And so I'm going to get all those dairy-free ingredients as well at Ingles. So if you need that, if you too have friends who are lactose challenged, that is something that you can grab at Ingles, Mac.
Well, let me ask you this. So do you make a separate dip just for that one person, or does that one person affect the entire tailgate?
Here's the thing. These are some of our best friends. These are our two best couple friends that we tailgate with. So basically every dish, every time we all get together, we have to say, Rich, can you eat this? It's just, we're used to it. So, and it's healthier for you, Mac. It's good.
Sure. Well, all that I learned about you is that you're a better friend than me, because I would tell that friend to suck it up and figure it out. That's what I would say.
But
I understand.
It could affect all of us down the road, if you get my drift.
I understand that. Well, I'm excited for you too. Before we get to Ingles real quick, you're going to be in the Valley. You're coming to the house.
That's right.
First game this year, right?
First game this year.
There you
go. We're getting a babysitter.
Nice.
So we're not taking the little baby. I think we might try to take him to another game.
Is this the first time you've left him with a babysitter?
This will be the longest that I've been away from Jacob. So I hope the game delivers. Yeah, I'm a little nervous, but it'll be okay.
Well, how about
I hope
this?
The game delivers.
So we're experiencing this at the same time. So we have another family wedding this weekend. I don't know why I have all these people
so many weddings.
With weddings in the fall. We
gotta
have some come to Jesus meetings. This will be the last one I attend.
Seriously.
And it is a family member, but it is a Sunday. So I'm figuring out, I do Fridays and Sundays. I can't do Saturdays. So people adjust accordingly. But we also will have a babysitter, and nerves a little, is what it is.
No, I get it.
Is what it is.
I get it. It's nerve-wracking.
As a protective parent over helicopter parent, I am very, intrigued.
Mac, I think our sitter is a Georgia fan. So
whoa, code red.
I haven't,
how about this? I got a
specifically asked her, but I have a hunch.
Well, first of all, that's part of the interview process. What are you doing? Secondly, I can one up you here, and I don't love to do this, but our babysitter attends US of C. That's not good, Mac. Yeah, junior. Little brother over there. So it is law school, or excuse me, it is grad school though, not law school, grad school.
Okay.
So she did not go there for undergrad. So is what it is. Is what it is. Anyway, that's enough of us. Let's get to our friends over at Ingles for a great message here before we get started.
It's time to discover the convenience and time savings of contact-free pickup with Ingles Curbside. Just visit shop.ingles-markets.com or download the app. And your Ingles personal shopper gets to work with specialized training on how to select the freshest items for a pre-scheduled pickup. They'll even text you with updates. You pull up to a designated space and your personal shopper delivers your items right to your vehicle. Fresh, fast, and affordable. It's all in the bag. Ingles. Low prices. Love the savings.
Mac, let's get into our big game breakdown. And look, we're not going to lie to you, all right? We're not going to force 3 or 4 games in the big game breakdown when, frankly, there are really only 2.
Come on.
Low-key, only 1. But we will talk Clemson, Florida State, and North Carolina Pitt here in the big game breakdown. And then we'll run through the rest of these games because, honestly, the rest of the ACC slate is kind of when you look at this Clemson-Florida State game. So let's start here, Matt. Clemson is hosting number 4 Florida State. We mentioned the Noles are 2.5-point favorite. ABC at noon. A few things that we didn't necessarily hit on Wednesday that I want to talk about here. First and foremost, with Jordan Travis and his health, I know he went back in the game against Boston College, but I think overall they haven't run him as much lately. Like we talk about Jordan Travis as a dual threat, and he definitely is, but he's beating teams with his arm. He's not out there running for 75 or 100 yards.
No.
So do you think the shoulder and anything going on with that, do you think that affects this game? Do you think it affects maybe how much they run him at all?
I think that we have seen them just let him create. They're not calling a lot of design runs really at all. Number one, I think because you have two, maybe three outstanding running backs for Florida State led by Trey Benson, who we had on Wednesday. If you didn't check that out, go listen to that. And so I don't think there's really a need to do it, but they can, right? Like that's the kicker. And will be interesting.
But will they?
Is this the
with
game?
The injury stuff?
Hey, you got to win. That's what we're dealing
True.
with. This is one of those games. This isn't a let's get through it game. This is let's win at all costs type of thing. And JT knows that too, and probably thinks that exact same way. So I think it's one of those things. If you see, Clemson just stoning the run with running backs, then they might have to be creative and see JT kind of get on the edge or do what he does, maybe some option type stuff just to get out in space. That's at the end of the day when you have a guy like that, you're trying to move the pocket, trying to move out, see what you can have happen, but also just the nature of extending plays with his legs in the passing game. We have seen him do that. And so it will be fascinating, KG, how much do they run him? How much do they get him going?
Yeah, I think to your point, the best thing that JT's been doing with his legs lately is extending plays.
Yeah.
Extending plays, getting out of the pocket, and then still using his arm. Speaking of his arm, the other matchup that I'm really interested in is this Clemson secondary versus these Florida State wide receivers.
Yeah.
And Makuba is still kind of, we'll see if he's going to play. So that's interesting for Clemson. We haven't necessarily seen Clemson play a passing attack like this probably since Tennessee.
Right.
And we know what happened there. Do you think this matchup is as important? And I think Florida State has the edge. Am I looking at it wrong in any way?
No, absolutely they have the edge. And it's still, obviously Clemson's pass defense has been elite this year so far, but you look at who they play and you understand. Now, they did play Duke, and those guys have loaded wide receivers. I'd put those receivers, probably against anybody in the country when you look at the room. But these guys are just different. They're big. They're basketball players. The things that they can do and go up and get the ball, and that's hard to replicate. It's easier to replicate fast guys that are running all around, if what things they can do, but you can't replicate 6'7". Okay, you can't replicate 6'4" and some change, and a basketball player that can go up and get it like they have with Keon Coleman. So that's what I'm interested to see, KG. Like, what's the plan with those guys? Are you trying to be physical? Are you trying to press a 6'7" guy? Are you having cloud coverage over the top, a safety over the top, or are you just trusting, hey, we're going to speed this process up. We're going to blitz. We're going to get pressure with 4. We're going to try to hit it right up the middle and, try to throw that timing off, because we know that's everything.
That's
if
more what I
think they'll do. 1, 2, 3 step. And I agree with you, but can they do it? Is a little bit of a different story. I'm fascinated to see, though, the Johnny Wilson deal. Hasn't scored a touchdown yet, but obviously has been elite. His after the catch thing is also important. I think KG, it has to be bang, bang. When he catches the rock, you can't just let him gallivant down the field. You have to be there hitting him, staying physical, staying aggressive. It'll be fascinating to see the plan there for Clemson.
And with that receiving game for Florida State, I think one of my big questions here with Clemson, can they match up to Florida State when it comes to explosive plays? Mm-hmm. Can they be explosive enough? Yeah. If you've been listening to our podcast, I have talked about Clemson's lack of explosivity for a long time now. And that's still a problem, especially in the passing game. Yeah. Mac, this isn't even my crazy stat. This is just a stat, okay? Clemson is dead last in the ACC in yards per completion. That's crazy. It's still a lot of dink and dunk.
Yeah.
So can you get Bo Collins going? I think that if I have to point to one thing that could be the game changer, if Clemson is not explosive, they're not going to win.
Right. And it's funny. They're dead last, and Florida State, on the other hand, has 5-6 guys with over 40-yard catches.
Right.
They're doing it. And it's a lot different how they're doing it. And we mentioned Johnny. I think he obviously gets a lot of headlines, but Keon obviously has shown that he is an absolute threat, is a weapon. had no catches the Boston College game, which I thought was so weird. But you also have to look at Jaheim Bell, as well, and a guy that is very versatile. I will say silver lining, good thing, whatever you want to call it there, is Clemson obviously has seen him before. They know what he can do. Last year in the Clemson game, pretty much held him in check against North Carolina, had 2 catches for 2 yards. And I think
against South Carolina,
against South Carolina, had like 9 rushes for maybe 2 or 3 yards a carry. He did score a touchdown. But they know his versatility. So you've got to find out where's 6, where's Waldo. You got to know where he is.
Definitely. Okay, my last big question here. And I think, by the way, I'm asking these questions, you might see where I'm leaning as to who I'm going to pick.
I'm shocked.
This is a simple question, Mac. Is Cade ready?
Yeah.
Is he ready for this moment? Because the last time he was on a big stage like this, he did not look ready. Now, Again, he's still a very, very young player. Jordan Travis is 24? And Klubnik is 19.
Yeah.
So that shows the difference. I mean, and I think we forget, what we're forgetting lately is there was an article about Jordan Travis this week. There was a time when Florida State wanted nothing to do with Jordan Travis.
Yeah.
When the stadium was booing him.
Yeah.
I mean, he had to take his lumps, and now he's beloved.
Of course.
And I think we've seen Cade take some of those lumps, but can this be a game where he breaks out?
Well, I don't think there's any question about his journey when you look at Jordan Travis. I mean, he came to Florida State with no confidence, wanting to change positions just to play football, just to be able to be free, to now being one of the more elite quarterbacks in the country. A guy who arguably could be ACC Player of the Year, and maybe even in New York for the Heisman Trophy. So I think when you see his story, it is so inspiring and powerful in the fact of always count on yourself, always bet on yourself, and understand that you can control the work, what goes in, what comes out, all those different things. And he's a living testament of that and having the faith. I think he came to find his faith later in his career. And you've seen kind of the success that's with that, which is really cool, from our standpoint, both being believers. The question with Cade is fascinating, because funny enough, I think it's actually favorable for him that it's a noon game, that it's not a night game, because think of the added pressure, the added environment, the waiting
and sitting around
all day for that game. Now he just wakes up and goes play. Just have fun. Just go out there and enjoy it. The biggest thing for him is, can you take advantage of this Florida State defense that is dead last in the ACC in pass defense? Now, it's kind of that bend, don't break. They're not allowing a bunch of people in the end zone, but they're dead last in yards. They're allowing a ton of yards down the field, chunk plays. How can you take advantage of that? We saw it against LSU, which you could argue a very good quarterback. We saw it against Boston College, which you could argue, a guy who's finding his way. It wasn't even a starter to begin the year there. So how can Clemson take advantage of that? I think it'll be really fascinating to see. For the defense, though, KG, I think the biggest thing for me is just, can you tackle Jordan when you got him? Like, we've seen a lot of missed tackles by the Clemson defensive line, and Barrett Carter. He had a Riley dead in his tracks on that long touchdown run that kind of broke the spirits a bit, for Clemson, and he escaped and scored. Jordan's faster than that. Jordan's more elusive than that. How can you handle him? How can you bring him down? And then you said this on Wednesday for the offense of Clemson. I think Shipley's the ticket. Like, he has to have an amazing game, and he's coming off of a frustrating performance. We saw him and his coach get an argument, CJ Spiller, on the sideline, which I have no insight into that. I wish I did, but basically it just looked like, hey, I want the ball, I want to score. And they obviously went another direction there. And he's a fiery guy, he's a passionate guy. I understand that for anybody who's a competitor. But he has to break out, and he's had great success against these guys in the past. 100 yards every game. So it's going to be fascinating to see kind of the game plan there. And kind of last ticket, I'm all over the place again, I'm sorry. Has Clemson been saving anything offensively for this? I thought that about NC State.
You'd hope at this point, from what you've seen.
Maybe something. Do they look any different? Do we see anything different, with flexing guys out or motions or formations, anything of that nature? That'll be another fun ticket to see there, KG.
Okay, here's my crazy stat, Mac. South Carolina had lost 7 straight. This is from Ira Schofel on Twitter, by the way. Got to give Ira credit. He's our guy. South Carolina had lost 7 straight to Clemson and hadn't won in Death Valley in 10 years when Jaheim Bell and the Gamecocks won there last year. You mentioned Jaheim didn't do too much, but he was on the team. Florida State has lost 7 straight to Clemson and hasn't won in Death Valley in 10 years. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
And what's interesting too is that Clemson South Carolina game last year, Clemson, when we talk about the issues for Clemson, well, these crazy things just keep happening. Well, at what point are they, more of an issue than just a fluke? And you had that crazy fumble on the kick return last year that basically lost the game. Turnovers, we know, are going to be massive. We talked about that on Wednesday as well. I think this is a massive game for Clemson and its reputation and where it is right now as a program.
Right.
It's huge. And I think for Florida State can lose this game in Death Valley, lose a close one, and then win out, beat Clemson in the ACC title, go to the playoff.
Yep.
Clemson cannot lose this game and have any hopes of accomplishing what they want to do, especially even winning the ACC, because this will be your second ACC loss.
Right. Yeah. No, you've got to – it's win or go home essentially, for this, or not quite, but, it does take away that playoff ability. And, it obviously is a huge uphill climb being 0-2 in the ACC to try to get to the championship. I've got some fun questions for you here, KG. I want to know who you would go with here. Passing yards, Jordan Travis, Cade Klubnik. Who has more?
I would say Jordan Travis.
Okay.
I think Clemson's going to try to really run the ball.
Okay. Rushing yards, answer my question. Trey Benson, Will Shipley.
Shipley.
Okay. Receiving yards. I'm just going to ask, who do you think the leader is for Florida State? Who do you think the leader is for Clemson?
I think Keon Coleman has a real bounce back game.
Okay.
I think Coleman is the leader for Florida State. I think for Clemson, Bo Collins. Just putting it out into the universe.
I'm going to put this out in the universe. I think Tyler Brown has a massive day.
Okay, yeah. Tyler Brown could be an X factor. I agree.
His speed, I think the confidence of doing it. Like freshmen, I mean, you remember this as a freshman shooter. Like, you don't know what you don't know. I don't know that I'm not supposed to be doing this. I don't know that I'm not supposed to be faster than you, because I am, and I'm doing it. I think that there's almost this weird confidence that comes from that. And you saw that post-game interview with him. He's like, man, I love Cade. We work so hard, blah, blah, blah. This is fun. And I'm like, no, man, you're a dog. And, how much does he get from this game? I'm fascinated to see that. I think Shipley probably ends up being the leading rusher. How about turnovers? Who wins the turnover margin?
At this point, I have to say Florida State, because Clemson has just shown that it has a turnover issue right now.
Yeah, I think
so. That's what I think is a big issue.
Yeah, I think there's going to be something. I don't know what it'll be. I don't know who's going to do it, but I think there's going to be a monumental play that happens.
Something, yeah.
That we're like, that was it. That's what won somebody the game. Obviously, I think it's going to be Clemson. KG thinks Florida State. I can't wait. I can't wait to see it.
Last point for me on this game. That's why I brought up that crazy stat from Ira that Florida State has not beaten Clemson in Clemson since 2013. It's been a very long time. Hasn't beaten them overall since 2014. I don't think that matters for this Florida State team. This is a Florida State team made up of a lot of transfers. A lot of dudes that maybe didn't even play in the Clemson game last year, or have just played one game against Clemson, and that was last year when Florida State was still finding itself. So a lot of these guys have not been around for that long, maybe not even back to the 2020 game where Florida State low-key forfeited. So that, I think, doesn't really matter for Florida State. Yeah. What do you think about that?
You know why it does matter? Because the guy that has played in all those games is the quarterback. He's been a part of every one of them.
But some of those he didn't even start.
He was there. He knows what that valley's like. And I think that's kind of a thing too. Like Trey came on the show and said it. I've heard it's loud. He has no clue what's about to happen. That place is going to be.
Well, he's played at loud places.
Where? Oregon? Come on.
What about last year's game when they played in New Orleans against LSU? I'm sure that was
New Orleans.
loud.
It's a dome. Nobody cares about that. It's a neutral site. They haven't seen what they're about to see.
And I guess they didn't play at Florida last year. They played
at home.
Florida at home.
At home.
Yeah. Okay, we'll see.
Hey, it's going to be part of you. You better be cheering loud.
Yeah.
I'm totally.
Okay, well. Wait, who's better be cheering?
No, I'm just saying. I'm just trying to totally discredit what you're about to pick, because you better be a part of the problem, cheering your butt off.
Oh, I got you. Yeah. When I attend the game, I mean, all bets are
That's
off.
right.
Okay. I'm taking Florida State -2.5.
No.
I think Florida State's the better team. I think Florida State's going to win the game. And I'll be honest with you, Florida State fans. I don't really want y'all to win. But I'm picking you because I think that's just where we are, where both these programs are right now.
Let me ask you this, though. Is it good or bad for the ACC if Florida State loses?
I think it's probably better for the ACC if Florida State wins.
Right.
I think
it's kind of weird
to have Florida State undefeated. Now, like we said, Florida State can still lose this game, get to the championship, beat whoever's there, and go to the playoff. But it also depends what happens all around the country. So I think it is better for the ACC if Florida State wins.
I agree. With all that
but
said.
You could argue, too, if Clemson wins, they get back in the rankings, they get back in the discussion.
Maybe, who knows?
And then, right. But if Clemson wins, we're viewing Clemson differently, and then it suddenly becomes a quality loss for Florida State and all these things. So I think it's good. It could be fine either way.
Bad news. Quality losses cannot happen in this conference. We do not have the right to that. I do.
We don't have the right.
We don't have that. Sorry. There's only one league that can do that. I'm with you, though. Listen, I think that Clemson plays their best game.
No, you're not with me.
I understand what you're saying, but I'm not with you.
Okay.
There we go. I'll rephrase that. I think Clemson wins. I think that there's something about playing in that valley. I think there's something about the mental hurdle, even though you don't agree, of beating these guys. And at the end of the day,
we'll see.
They got 7 of those rings staring right at your face saying, come on, let's do it. What do you want to do? And maybe this is a Clemson team that maybe plays to the quality, even though you never want to see that. But
what about Duke?
Can't wait. They play to the quality. It's basketball school.
Oh, Lord. All right. We disagree on this game, but both of us cannot wait to see this game.
That's right.
And, of course, we've spent basically this whole episode on this game. So let's get to these other games, Mac. The other game in our big game breakdown is number 17, North Carolina at Pittsburgh. The huddle will be there. Ooh. North Carolina is a 7.5-point favorite. This is the 8 p.m. game on ACC Network. Mac, I have a theory about this game. I think Pat Narduzzi is bluffing. I think everything he's saying about Jerk's my guy, we're sticking with Jerk, etc. No, he's not doing it. I think Vair's going to play. No way. And I think he is trying to throw North Carolina off, just like Clemson did in the ACC Championship last year, where Dabo kept saying, DJ's the guy, DJ's the guy. DJ played one series, in came Cade. North Carolina was not ready. This is my theory. And I also have had 2 cups of coffee today. I think that's pretty obvious. But that's what I think Pitt's going to do, Mac.
Classic. Look over here. Bow! Punch you with the left hand. Okay, so is it the situation where Jerk dirts a couple balls and he's out? Or is it from Jump Street, Vair gets in the game?
I am not sure. Okay. But I think either one. I think they give Jerk 1 or 2 series. Okay. And I mean, the way Jerk's played, I think he has the yips. I think it's not happening. No. They go with Vair. So, and I think that North Carolina has learned from last year's ACC championship. And there is Penn State film on Vair, who is the transfer from Penn State. So I'm sure they're preparing for him a little bit. I mean, I would too, when you've seen how bad Jurkovec has been.
Yeah, it's tough. It's been just a brutal year, a brutal start for him. And there's a lot of weird things. I was talking with EJ about this last year at the West Virginia game. He just kind of looked hurt. Like he didn't look super mobile. And the Pitt coach just said no, but I don't know. It's weird. I don't know if he's maybe gained a little more weight and he's not as nimble. I don't know what it is. But he just looks different.
Mac,
he looks different. Can't
old age catches all of us. This is why you shouldn't play college football for 8 years,
He's not that old. He's not as old as Jordan Travis, but he's up there. This is a third school. That's tough to do there. But I'm interested to see. And just what do they want to do? Offensively, is it run the ball? I think they tried against West Virginia, but they just couldn't super effectively, at least. And, Phil having single-digit completions. That's
not going to work.
That's tough. It's not going to work. And it's not going to work against this North Carolina team that's firing on all cylinders, doing whatever they want. They want a game with defense, running the ball, passing the ball. So to be quite frank, this game is always tight, which is weird. And I think Vegas and as you're, picking this game, you have to take that into account. Like the last however many meetings have been 1-score meetings. And especially recently, they've been, just absolute dogfights. But I've got to think that this is a little bit different. I think that Drake May is going to have his, better games. He's coming off a 400. I think they run the ball pretty well. Mm-hmm. And then defensively, what can you do against this team to really slow them down? A hurting Pitt team will be fascinating to see.
And, is there a good atmosphere? I think that's the other question. Have the Pitt fans kind of said, I'm not sure if we want to show up. Hopefully they do.
Right? Like it's already hard enough because there's so much to do in Pittsburgh.
Exactly.
It'll be interesting.
Here's my stat, Mac, and I want to hear your thoughts on this Pitt offensive line because David Hale tweeted this out. Pitt has allowed pressure on 45% of its dropbacks when the defense did not bring an extra pass rusher, i.e. no blitz. That's the worst mark in the country and up 34% from last year.
Awesome.
So it's not just Phil. I mean, and that's kind of what Narduzzi was saying is like, I'm not sure we're going to fix everything. It's not just Phil if we bench him. But the O-line has really struggled. And UNC had that game against South Carolina where they had a bunch of sacks. They haven't done that as much lately, but I think this D-line could feast a bit.
Yeah. You know, it's 2 years in a row now, Phil is just getting pressured, right? And having to think quickly and get the ball out or do whatever. And he just quite hasn't been able to do that. Now, there were a couple injuries for this Pitt offensive line, and that seems to be a trend. Unfortunately, guys, they have this unit that you think is going to be solid, and then a couple of guys fall by the wayside, and then you have to get younger guys in and start playing. And you're just like, oh, my gosh, what's kind of going on here? What are we going to do? So you've got to build into that, and you have to have quick options. Let's get the ball out quick. Somewhere, some way, there's a read that I know if I have pressure, boom, I'm going to this guy. Or I'm throwing it over his head out of bounds and not taking a hit, not taking a sack there. So it's something they have to be super intentional about, KG. And, you can't take a bunch of hits on your QB.
I am taking North Carolina to cover. I know, and I appreciate those stats about these games being close because they have been weirdly close. But North Carolina minus 7.5, I feel like that number should be higher. So that gives me a good feeling to take North Carolina to cover.
Yeah, and I think it actually has moved since I've done radio. I think it was 6.5 or 7, so it's gone up.
Yeah, this morning was 7.5.
Was it? Okay, good. So I'm looking at it now. I think they win by double digits. Who knows? Could get weird in Pittsburgh. This is a new, like I said this earlier about Pitt too. This isn't quite desperation yet, because I don't think we were thinking Pitt was a playoff team or anything of that nature, and losing 2 in a row is tough. But this is a new season of its own. Like ACC play, all your goals are still out in front of you. If y'all remember, when was it? 2018 maybe? Pitt was like 6-6 and playing in the ACC championship because they did so well.
I was going to say, every coastal team is familiar with the ACC being a new season.
Right. That's right. So they can obviously do that here. So I'm not quite thinking their backs are against the wall yet, but there will be a little bit of desperation of we've got to do something. We've got to get it going.
Yeah, definitely. All right, speed round, Mac. Let's just give a point or two on the rest of these games. Let's start with the ranked teams. Number 18, Duke, is going to UConn because, of course, CBS Sports Network, 3:30 p.m. Duke is a 21.5-point favorite. Mac, I have learned from my mistakes. I have not taken Duke to cover twice this year, and both times they've covered against Clemson and against Northwestern. I am tired of being wrong about Duke. UConn, since hanging with NC State, was blown out by Georgia State and lost to Florida International University. So I'm going to take Duke to cover on the road. I still don't love it because that's a big number, but I'm going to take them to cover.
Maybe I can persuade you. I'm going to give you a freebie here.
Are you taking UConn?
Just listen. The last ACC team UConn played, what happened? Who covered?
They covered.
Who's Duke playing next week?
They're looking ahead to Notre Dame, perhaps. No. I'm
what
sticking
we
with
just
it.
see
I
what the
UConn
number 3
bad.
team in the country do against the worst ACC team.
Yeah.
This is your freebie. You want to
I
switch?
think UConn is bad.
Switch?
No.
We thought Boston College was bad.
No.
All right, you're floating with the Blue Devils. You're in.
I'm glad we're different because I need to get back in the game.
Well, we're not different because I'm with
so
you
this is good for me. Dang it, Mac.
I think that Riley has his best game. I think that they light it up. But a lot of those things, like you cannot look forward. You have to look at this opponent. You've got to get it done. I think they run the ball at will, but I'd love to see Riley get a couple of touchdowns through the air. The fact that he has 1 is nuts. The fact that Will Shipley for Clemson has 0 rushing touchdowns is bonkers. So I need those 2 guys to have massive weekends. I'd love to see that.
Okay, so we agree there. Man, you had me there. All right, number 20, Miami is at Temple, ESPN2, 3:30. The ACC is playing some absolutely astounding road games.
This is the Manny Diaz Bowl, I think. I think this was like a trade. Yeah. Like, hey, Miami, you can have the coach, but you have to come back and play us.
This is a big number, so it worries me a little bit on the road. This is Miami's first road game of the year. And here's a crazy stat. We talked about Pittsburgh allowing a bunch of pressures on Dracovic. Miami has allowed pressure on just 15.5% of non-blitzed dropbacks. That's 9th best in the country. That O-line is different. Temple is not a good run defense. They gave up 250 plus to Rutgers. I think Miami goes up there. They run the heck out of the ball. And I'm taking Miami to cover. The number makes me nervous, but I'm taking
I think that's a great pick. I mean, I've heard this 100 times this week. I don't know why people don't like Temple and their fan base. I'm not sure if there just isn't one or what.
Is it a Philly thing?
I don't know. But I've heard that there's going to be 100 people in the stands. So it's going to be a weird game. I think Miami just absolutely, like you said, runs the ball at will. TVD probably slings it around a little bit, but this is going to be a fast game. Sorry for those guys on ESPN2. Big Phil going into your 7:00 game.
Yes. Little TV
That's
jargon right there, Mac. NC State at Virginia, Friday night, ESPN, 7:30. NC State's a 9.5 point favorite. Yeah. NC State has some injuries in the secondary, but Virginia's injuries are, I think, much more of a concern. Musket still out, we think. Calandria is a wild card. Yeah. I'm not sure what he's going to do. Brennan returns. I think NC State covers, Mac. I mean,
maybe
this game is weird to me.
It is weird. And 9.5
Friday night,
9.5 Friday night lights. QB's going home to obviously a place where he had so much success, but also a lot of emotion with him being there the first time since that horrible tragedy. And how is that going to feel for him? What is that going to be like for him to go home? I'm sure he'll be celebrated when he walks on the field.
Virginia fans will be cordial.
I hope so. I mean, I hope they kind of cheer for him, which would be great. But this is going to be interesting for NC State. Can they continue to run the ball? Obviously, we saw against VMI they had great success, but just continuing to answer the question: who are the dudes at the skill position? Who are going to make the catches? Right now, you're led by a freshman. A true freshman coming in here. And doing his thing. I need other guys like Rooks and, just all these cats to step up like I thought that they would. Lassane, some of these tight ends. And maybe we see that here. I guess I feel good because Virginia's just not a great team right now, but I'm taking NC State.
My only hesitation with this is Virginia was hanging with Maryland until they self-combusted. Right?
Yeah. Well, let me kind of pull back the curtain for some folks here. So I was at a wedding. Again, all these weddings.
Oh, yeah.
I get a text from KG saying, Virginia, in all caps, exclamation. I'm like, oh, my gosh, because I saw it late. And I didn't know. I didn't look at the time like when you text me. So I'm like, no way they won. This is awesome. I look at the score and it's like 40-14. I'm just like, I guess they didn't finish. Are you good? Like, what happened?
And weren't they up like 14-10 or something?
14-0. I think it was.
Yeah,
crazy.
They were. Yes. That's when I texted
that was when the text occurred. Fortunately for me, I didn't see it for 2 hours.
That is so funny. You're like, what is wrong with her? Kelly, you drink it early. I'm going to take NC State. I don't trust Virginia.
Yeah, I think that's a safe bet. I'm with you.
I don't trust him. All right, NC State covers. Army at Syracuse. ACC Network, noon. Syracuse is a 13.5 point favorite. Mac, this is a news flash. Army is no longer running the triple option.
That's great.
This is crazy.
It's very good for me.
I was reading some articles about it, and then I thought, I need to look up some highlights so I can believe this for myself. And they got their quarterback in the shotgun. Right. This is unreal.
Right. I will say I did see some shotgun triple option, which is terrifying. It's weird. It's but they're trying to modernize, which is difficult to do. It's hard to do. You got to get a whole new skill set of guys, and you're at a military institution, so it's tough.
Exactly.
13.5 is a big number too, especially this Army team is not bad. I mean, they just beat a UTSA team. Is that UTSA?
Yeah, they beat UTSA. Yep.
That was ranked, right? I think to start the season.
I don't think so.
I think they might have been. I'll look this up. I'll follow up on this.
Maybe receiving votes.
Now I have to do research live in front of everybody. Hold on.
I do not think UTSA was ranked.
Because it was shocking. Why can't I find their opponents here?
No way.
Hold on.
No
it's
way.
working slowly for me. You guys are watching this.
UTSA is UT San Antonio. They're the Roadrunners.
They were good. They're 1-2 right now.
They just started a football program
they
like
lost
5 years ago.
To somebody. I'm looking. Last year.
They were not.
Did they have 10 wins last year?
They
were 11-3.
Yeah,
I think they were ranked coming into the season. I don't know why I can't see.
They may have been ranked in the final poll.
Showing me. Don't know why. Anyway, regardless,
we'll update you later.
Regardless, the Twitter. This is a good team. They were not.
Point
is. Okay, good to know.
No, they were not.
Hey, 11 wins. That's hard to do. So with that said, I think that Schrader continues to be a baller. He's a guy that, man, I was interested. How was it going to look? And the way it looks is he accounts for all but, I think, 40, 80 yards of Syracuse total offense. Just do your thing. Do whatever you want. The sleight of hand was disgusting to see. EJ is actually going to do a tape on that later Saturday, which is going to be a lot of fun. And so I'm just excited to see this team. I think they roll. It's a big number, but I'm rolling with the orange.
I'm taking Syracuse as well. Army, yeah, they played UTSA, and that's a good win. But Syracuse, they can run the ball, and I think they're going to
Texas thing.
Well, it's just a joke. They're UTSA, but if you plug it into your GPS and you're going down there, which I think I did for some basketball tournament, it says arriving at UTSA, and so that's what I call it now. But I think Syracuse is going to run the ball. They're going to control the clock, control this game. And I like that they got LaQuint Allen going against Purdue. He was like the other offense besides Garrett Schrader. So I think Syracuse covers in this one, Mac. Syracuse minus 13.5. Noon game. We don't need a sleepy start here, Syracuse. Okay, Boston College at
ACC
Louisville.
Play.
This is Louisville's a 13.5 point favorite. ACC Network 330. Sneaky game for Louisville. Coming off an Indiana game where we thought they would cover, and they let Indiana come back into that game. They kind of escaped. Can BC clean up the penalties? Because if they can, they could do something here. And Castellanos is a problem. I'm leaning towards Boston College covering.
Ooh, fascinating. I think I am too. I think I did that on radio.
Oh, dang it.
Here's the deal, though. Here's the deal. Let me see if this persuades you. Was last week absolutely everything that they had, and they came up short, and now it's like deflated. 13.5 is a lot of points for a Louisville team that, again, we saw them super slow start and then explode, and then great start and implode and not be able to do anything. It's two teams. I don't know where they are. Again, team of mystery with Louisville. They've been playing great, and they have weapons. But I just saw this Boston College team at home go toe-to-toe with the number 3 team in the country. Down 21. Never gave up. I think I'm rocking with Boston College. And that might be foolish, but I think I'm going with BC.
See, and the more I look at this game, I think Vegas wants you to take Boston College here.
I do too. I think they're tricking us.
Okay, I'm taking Louisville.
Switched it.
I'm changing it up.
EJ Manuel did the same thing. He did the same thing on radio.
Come on,
He's
Louisville.
Going with the Cards.
Cover for me, Cards. Let's do it. I'm going to save the saddest game for last. So let's talk about Georgia Tech at Wake Forest. Wake is a 3.5 point favorite, 6:30 p.m. on the CW. And Mac, Wake's coming off a scare against Old Dominion, as we all know, but they won. They came back. They found a way to win. I think the tough thing here for Georgia Tech is they're coming off a road game at Ole Miss, a tough road game, night game. Then they've got to come back, turn around another road game at Wake Forest. I know Wake showed some real issues, the turnovers, especially at Old Dominion, but give me a team going back home and Georgia Tech coming off a tough game and back-to-back roadies. I'm going to take Wake to cover here.
I'm going with the Jackets. I think that Haynes King is playing at a super high level.
I like it.
I think they're running the ball effectively. And I think that, our guy Haynes King is just hanging on to the ball a little too long. Now, Georgia Tech has one sack on the entire season, so it's not like they've been blitzing the house, getting a ton of quarterback hits. But I think that it's just, I don't know. I think that the Jackets ball out. I think we're going to see a great duel between these quarterbacks. Would not be surprised at all if both these guys are over 300 yards. But I think the Jackets are sneaky in this one and get a dub.
Okay. I like that. I mean, it'll be interesting. I think Haynes King is the best athlete on the field, for sure. But can Griffiths take care of the ball? That's my big question.
Wake Forest has some freaky
best quarterback athlete.
Receivers.
You're right. Not the best athlete. That's a little disrespectful to other positions. Okay, so we disagree there. The final game, the sad game. We should start a category. Sad game.
Well, it'd be the same team, so you wouldn't want to do that. It'd be offensive.
Oh, yeah, that'd be bad. It would be one of the Virginia teams. Virginia Tech at Marshall. Marshall's a 5-point favorite. ESPN2 at noon. I'm just gonna give you some facts for this game. Grant Wells is limited due to injury, and Pop Watson has been suspended for violation of team rules. So it's down to Kyron Drones taking first team reps. I'm not sure if Grant Wells can play. There's a true freshman who's taken second team reps. I don't even know his name. No timetable for Ollie Jennings' return. That's bad. Virginia Tech last lost to Marshall in the year of our Lord, 1940. Virginia Tech is coming off being blown out by Rutgers, giving up 250 on the ground. And here's the crazy part. Marshall is coming off a bye week.
You love it, huh?
Marshall -5. That's my
easily. I mean, it might get ugly. Yeah, I mean,
Easily.
it might be bad. When you see, Marshall's throwing the ball super effective at 70%. They're running the ball, at will. They've got a great running back, and Alley back there, Rasheen Alley, who, man, he's been a freaky player, these last couple of years. And he last year was kind of a big surprise for them. They thought that I forget his name right now. I feel bad, but last year thought that a transfer from Florida State was going to be the guy. Then he kind of got injured. Ali comes out of nowhere and it explodes for him. Does a really good job running the football, catching the football out of the backfield. So I think that those guys are going to dominate. That defense is freaky too for Marshall. I mean, they get after guys. They have 10 sacks in 2 games. It might get back quick.
They're coming out. They beat East Carolina, and then they have their bye week.
The Fun Belt is for how many games is that? How
I
many
think
games is that for the Sun Belt over the ACC? Our guy Noah is relishing and having so much fun right now. Unbelievable.
So many games against the Sun Belt.
What are the standings? Goodness. Can you update the people? How are we doing? Do you have that at your disposal? Yeah.
I
think you said it on Monday. I'm sorry.
I will update. Mac is doing great. Mac is 18-10 against the spread. Let's go, baby. So that is really good. And any games where we disagree this week, I would say go with Mac's pick. I'm 15-13 against the spread, which,
that's right.
It's respectable. That's right. So we need some big wins. If you're me, we need Boston College. We need Louisville to cover, and we need Wake to cover. That's what we're hoping for. If you're Team Kelly, then that's what you're hoping for. If you want to make money, then take Mac's picks.
I don't know. We'll see. You did take FSU too, so it might be the smart pick.
And FSU. That's right. That's right.
Kelly's punishment will be she has to wear a Clemson shirt on Monday if she loses. So that's our bet. I'll wear a Florida State shirt.
I have a lot of those, so that'll be fine.
Anyway, this is a long episode. It wasn't supposed to be. I'm sorry, guys. We drug it out. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Big week. Next week is going to be a little condensed. I think we have a handful of games on the network. That's right.
We got ACC playing ACC, which
Conference
will be good.
Play rolling. But thank you guys for tuning in. Another great episode. Appreciate our friends over at Ingles for all that they do. And of course, we need you guys to go over to YouTube. Check us out, man. It's fun. We have a lot of fun over here. Make some funny faces, do some funny stuff. My dog's just floating over here. I keep looking at what she's doing. Good old Sam. Sam hasn't let us know she's here in a while. She's been doing good.
Well, and this was an episode where no children interrupted us.
That is true. Amelia is sleeping peacefully, and Jacob is playing musical instruments at 4 months old. Very impressive.
He's at school.
But we also need you guys to go over to Apple Podcasts, rate, review, subscribe. We would greatly appreciate that. But until next time, we'll see y'all.